I got those first two cylinders, the number 1 and number 3, back on there. I thought they was just going to go pretty straightforward, but I forgot I pickled those. I'd sprayed them down with that corrosion resistant grease, and of course I couldn't get the pins to slide through them or anything, and they were gummed up inside the cylinders and stuff, so I had to wash them out. Well, I tried washing them out with starting fluid, but that doesn't touch that stuff hardly, so I had to go get some paint thinner to wash that stuff off with. But usually I can compress the rings by hand with my fingers to get those cylinders started on there, but with all the grunge and stuff on those from all the carbon and whatnot, and anyway, I was just having a hard time with it. So I have this I guess it's a KD tool little spring compressor here, and it actually works pretty good. And the thing about this is you got to have one that'll open up once you get the cylinders on there, because the cylinders are dead-ended there. It's not like slipping them into an engine block or something. So got all 4 cylinders bolted down to the crankcase. Still got a little bit of work to do on them to get them finished up. I've got to hook up the intake tubes and the drain lines and put the push rods in and the push rod tubes. There's a pattern and a torque spec for those hold down bolts, but I didn't do anything with those. I just put them on there and just tightened them down, because this engine's not going to run. It just got to hold together long enough to get back to the factory. Well, this is a push rod tube, and this just slides through a port there in the cylinder head and then goes into the receptacle there on the crankcase. There's a gasket in there where the tappet is in that hole, and then there's a O-ring or gasket here on this end, so those just slide in there, press in like that. Well, there's the keeper that holds those in. It goes in there like that, pushes right up against those push rod tubes. Then there's a lock, and that goes on. It's got little ears that go over that keeper. We got a nut that goes on there. Gets tightened down, and then once it's tightened down, then you take a screwdriver or something and bend that tab over to lock that plate in place. And the push rods just go right in there, seat in against the lifters. A pin that goes through here, that there's bushings in this head here, pin that goes through here that the tappet pivots on, and then against the valve. This is the intake valve here, and it just has the regular keepers on it, and then the exhaust valve has a little, let's see if I can get that off there, has a little dummy over the top of that to protect the exhaust valve, probably to keep the heat from transferring through there so much or something, or wear and tear or whatever, I don't know. Anyway, I'll go ahead and go put those push rod pins in. Ideally, what you do is you pull those hydraulic units in the lifter bodies out of there and bleed them so that they collapse, and then you push these in, and you put the tappet shaft in with the tappets on them, and you check the clearance, the valve clearance between the valves and the tappets, and it has to be somewhere between, I think, 25 thousandths and 80 thousandths, but the only way to adjust that is to change these push rod tubes to different lengths of push rod tubes, and so they have different lengths of them to adjust the lash, valve lash, or valve tappet valve clearance. Now we'll see if we can get these rockers in. So what we'll need to do is turn this engine so it's top dead center. And that looks like that cylinder is top dead center. No. Okay, well, crap. I didn't want to have to do that, but that's what we got to do. So we're going to take these apart again, take these push rods out, take the push rod tubes off, and collapse that lifter. Now to pull that lifter body out of there, take a little piece of wire with a bend in it. Stick in there and try to pull it out of there. And of course you got hydraulic suction in there trying to keep it to stay in. There's that one. Part of it. There's the body of it's in there yet. I forgot about that. That's been too long since I've done this. That's a hydraulic body. There we go. There's a little ball in the seat in there. You got to release that pressure from that. You can see the oil coming out through there. That releases the hydraulic pressure out of that, the hydraulic lock out of that. Oh, we can put that one back in. And now there's spring in those push rods. There, okay, there we go. That one's in there. Now I guess we have to do the same thing with the rest of them. There it is. So that one's together. The Lycoming cylinders, when you buy those, you get a cylinder, piston, and a gasket kit, but you don't get these push rod pins, and you don't get the piston pins. The Superior, you get all of them, but they come with these only quart gaskets still, and those things don't hold up worth a damn. You tighten those up, put those on tight, and then they harden up, they leak, and you put them on tighter and they squeeze out more. There's no elasticity in them, so I've got to use these silicone gaskets, and I think these here are the ones that the Superior kits came with, was these silicone gaskets there. So that one's done. I guess I'm going to have to do all the rest of them the same way. I have to take these back apart again, lead down those tappets to those lifters. Okay, well, it's past dinner time. It's almost 7 o'clock, so I'm going to hang it up for today. But I got these two together. I'm going to have to do the same thing with the other side. I'm going to have to bleed those lifters down, fool with those until I can get them together. So that's what's up now. Well, it's not quite as nice a day today as it was yesterday. We are only getting rain and snow showers, but it's not clear blue sky like yesterday. Forecast is to get some thunderstorms, actually, snow and thunder. And tomorrow it's supposed to start blowing. They got a wind warning out, 30-40 mile an hour winds with gusts up to 60 or more. For Wednesday and Wednesday night, we'll see what happens then. Well, I got that engine all back together. I got all of those, the rocker arms and everything all back in. I had to take every one of the lifter bodies out, the plungers out, and collapse them to get rocker arms back in there. Well, it took a little longer than I had hoped. It's always fiddly getting those out because you just got to stick a wire in there and probe and find a hole and then pull the pieces out. You got to fight against the hydraulic suction there of the pieces getting them out. So anyway, I got that all done and got everything back together on it that goes back together. Well, now I can take the propeller off, and then once the propeller's off, then the engine can come off. Now the only thing that I don't know about on the engine is a quick drain on there. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to look at that other engine, the new one, and see if that's got a quick drain for the oil on it or not. I might have to take that off this engine too. But like I said, once I get this engine free and down, then I can turn it around and work on taking off the parts off the back of it that got to be transferred from this engine onto the other one. So anyway, one more thing before we take it off, and that's to pull the propeller off. But I think I'll go have some lunch first.